are live. Give me just a few seconds, guys. And pardon me, I'm currently kind of coming back from under the weather this last week. I got the flu really bad, and it's been kind of a rough couple of days. So let the stream breathe for a second, get everybody in here. Mile high hello, everybody in Broncos country. Welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Sanderson, and joining me as per usual is the Sith Lord of Mile High Huddle himself. He's Mile High Huddle senior NFL draft analyst, the one and only Erick Trickel. Erick, dude, we talk about it every time at the opening of the show. This team is just so frustrating. And after this last week's loss to the Carolina Panthers, a game that they should have went in there and won, it was a very winnable game. And we watched Russell Wilson get outplayed by Sam Darnold. Dude, the frustrations can't get any worse. And now we have a Baltimore Ravens team that is ready to come in here and punch somebody in the face, dude. How you doing?
I'm doing good. And, you know, the toll that this Broncos season has taken on me, I just realized how bad it is. This whole streak of hair wasn't this gray when the season started. But, I mean, like... It's getting to the point, and I think I said this in my grades article after this last week, is what else is there to say about this team? Now we're talking about birthday parties and lost locker room, and I mean, like, what's next? Are we going to be... Okay, you know, I'll stop it there because where I was going to be a little bit too far, but it's just, what's next with this team? I mean, people don't like Russ in the locker room, but more than half the team showed up. Who cares? I mean, it's no different from last year. I mean, part of the reason that was touted that Denver traded Von Miller was over a Halloween party. So now we're dealing with the birthday. It's annoying at this point. And the fact that this team is this bad as they are just makes it that these talking points are, you know, just that, talking points.
The bad thing is there's enough to criticize on the field for this team that, like, we could get into all the bad stuff that's going on there, but it's just the same talking points over and over. Like you said, they're all just talking points. The offensive line's not playing really well. Russell Wilson's struggling. The receivers aren't getting open right now. The defense, while playing good at times, is giving up big plays. They're allowing key critical drives, like scoring drives at the end of halves, and they're not making the key plays. They're not getting turnovers. Injuries are mounting. Like, it's over and over and over again. So now you're starting to find these TMZ-like storylines. Really, like this whole Russell Wilson birthday party thing is a TMZ-style storyline that I don't even want to, like, acknowledge. It's just dumb to me.
And the funny thing is every team has issues in the locker room. Even if you're winning, there are teams that have issues in the locker room if you're winning. But guess what? If you're winning, you put it aside. If you're losing, if you're 3-8, it's not going to get put aside. It's going to be talked about, and that's what we're having happening here. And you're right. I mean, this TMZ-ish style, that stuff that's going on with the Broncos right now, it's annoying, but it's where we are because the team is bad. Everything with this team is bad. It isn't just Wilson, and I know we've harped on Wilson a lot. The coaching staff is unprepared. The players are not good. The roster isn't good. I mean, even issues starting up top with George Payton are showing their head because of how little work he put into multiple positions. It's just it's a mess, and every week we have to try to figure something out. I saw somebody sit here talking about the topic of it, about critical matchups to watch, and despite Denver being a bad team, despite, you know, everybody expecting Denver to lose in this game, there are still matchups that Denver can win that could potentially help them win this. I did find out that of the Mile High Huddle pick them, I was the only team to pick Denver, simply because I'm picking Denver every game this season. Like, surprise, surprise. I think I mentioned this on here before, but it's just basically is I'm going to end up with the same record as the Broncos, good or bad. And, like, do I think that Denver will actually beat the Ravens? No, but I do think that there are certain matchups, and we'll talk about those, that Denver can exploit to potentially walk away with the win.
Yeah, there's a lot to like really like about this Baltimore Ravens team in terms of the play style that they have. There's some very fun matchups that you can kind of diagnose. I went back and watched the Carolina Panthers game, the Jacksonville Jaguars game earlier this afternoon to kind of give a really good like pulse of what this Ravens team really is right now. This last game, they were missing Ronnie Stanley up along the offensive line, but they still managed to have a very solid day in pass protection. The receivers are some fun cornerback receiver matchups that we can get into defensively for the Broncos, offensively for the Broncos. Obviously, the interior of the offensive line going against that defensive front seven is going to be a critical matchup to kind of exploit. Watching those linebackers and then that secondary that has just so much talent, but they have not lived up to the hype. It's going to be a really fun conversation, guys. But before we get into any of that, first things first, got to say hello to everybody out there in Broncos country joining us here on a wonderful Friday night for Dove Valley Deep Divers. We've got Mark Lindemood in the house, Noble in the house as well, Peter Middleton doing his thing over there in Cambodia. We've got a new name here, Dylan Buck Elk. We're going to grab this comment right off the top here. Dylan Buck Elk, first things first, welcome to the show. We appreciate you for joining us. A new name for me anyways. I watched Patrick Mahomes' interview on the Kelsey Brothers podcast, and hearing Pat and Travis talk about the culture at Kansas City, how they prepare, and how they handle success made me even more depressed as a Broncos fan. We suck. Excuse me. Right, yeah. It's a comedy of errors right now with this Broncos team. They look to be, completely disheveled. The preparation, the discipline, what they're trying to do offensively is simply just not working. They're relying on the defense way too much. It's just not working. And Dylan, thank you for joining us on the show. We've also got William Catalano here, Chase Wellner in the house, Cristiano down there in Brazil, Colin Wood, what's up, man? How we doing? Jay Kozad, Gary Palmer in the house as well. Everybody, welcome into Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. We definitely appreciate you all for joining us. Now, Eric, I kind of alluded to a couple of these critical matchups. When I went back and watched the Baltimore Ravens in these last couple of games that they played, the very first thing that I noticed, we're going to start on the offensive side of the ball for the Baltimore Ravens. The very first thing I noticed is in their running game. Well, really not necessarily just in the running game. Overall, their blocking scheme up front, they like to move a lot of offensive linemen around, specifically guards and the center, Tyler Linderbaum, in terms of pulling and getting them to the outside in their zone read running game. It's very fun to watch, and there's a big matchup to exploit that they're going to take advantage of in Nick Bonito out on the edge. What do you have that the Broncos can do to potentially mitigate the damage with Nick Bonito not being able to hold up the edge in the running game?
Well, I mean, don't put him out there. Like as much as that suck, and I know it's not going to happen, is you have a guy who's such a clear handicap against the run. Don't use him. Like, use him in obvious passing situations. Jonathan Cooper, I mean, he got completely owned against Carolina Panthers, and I believe against the Raiders as well. But he's had a pretty strong season against the run in his limited action. Like Baron Browning, like, use these other guys that can be decent run defenders. And one of the things that I mentioned was about how George Payton's, some of the decisions he made kind of have hurt this team. And I'm not going to talk about Bradley Chubb, trading him away. I'm going to talk about the fact that they loaded up at the edge room with poor run defenders. I mean, Nick Bonito, that was the biggest concern coming out of his. Baron Browning had concerns if he could hold up at the edge after switching over. Randy Gregory has issues against the run. Jonathan Cooper had major concerns there against as a rookie. Then you go in and after you trade Bradley Chubb, who was by far your best edge defender against the run, you bring in Jacob Martin, who is consistently pulled off the field in obvious run situations because he's so bad against the run. Like, you are setting your edges up to fail, and against teams like the Ravens, against a team like the Panthers, if you're not holding up on the edge, you're not going to you're going to struggle against the run consistently. It is such an integral part of it because being able to, cut off the edge and hold the edge and drive the running back inside to where the teeth of this Broncos run defense is so vital, but you can't do that. So when it comes to how do you keep the Ravens from doing this, I don't have a freaking clue because they don't have the personnel to do it.
The one answer that I do have is you've got to try to figure out a way to get Draymond Jones free. And that's the problem here, is because what they're doing offensively for the Ravens is they're pinning down with the tackle. They're essentially running a lot of pin pull stuff. So they pin down with the edge defender or the 5 technique interior defensive lineman like a Draymond Jones where he would typically be lined up. They pin him down with the tackle, and then they pull a guard off the ass of the tackle and kick out the edge, and they create these wide open running lanes. And whether it's Lamar Jackson, whether it's Gus Edwards, whether it's Kenyon Drake, Justice Hill, they're doing a great job of exploiting those gaps they're blowing open with these offensive linemen. And it's quite honestly very fun to watch. It reminds me of Pat Shurmur a couple of years ago with the Broncos when they decided to do that with Garrett Bowles coming across the offensive line when they had DeMar Dotson playing on the right tackle. All right, Gary Palmer jumping in here real fast with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Gary, for joining us, and thank you for your support as always, man. Good to see you in the chat again. Good evening, Lance, Eric, and Scott. Go Broncos, and absolutely, Gary, go Broncos. To kind of keep piggybacking off of that particular conversation, with what they're doing, like I said, with Lamar Jackson, the ability of his to use his legs and to create more extension of that running game. He's the leading rusher in terms of carries and yards for this Baltimore team right now, just because they've had so many injuries. They're kind of shuffling through backs in the backfield right now. But the biggest thing that you have to understand is when they pull those offensive linemen, you have to have your linebackers scrape and flow. And with what we're seeing with Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton right now, sometimes they'll guess the wrong gap, but they are doing a really good job of maintaining that gap control at the second level. Is that another way? So you try to free up Draymond Jones and then get those linebackers to kind of scrape through the trash a little bit to go make those plays at the line of scrimmage.
So the issue with that is this run defense is really built on the team aspect of run defense. So you got to have everybody playing discipline to their gaps. I mean, going back to the New York Jets, because that's a play that's on top of my head, the big touchdown run that they had. You had 4 players over pursue out wide with Draymond Jones. You had Alex Singleton, you had Kareem Jackson, and you had somebody else who over pursued outside. None of them stayed disciplined on the inside and allowed that cut back lane that the running back was able to hit and go. And on top of that, you had Uwazurike, who wasn't able to flow with the play as well and got shut out, and again helping open that hole. So when you're trying to, again, going back to these outside runs about it, yeah, the linebackers have to flow with the play, but they still have to stay disciplined because all the ball carriers in Baltimore, they do such a good job with those cutbacks that you have to stay disciplined on the back end. So you can't have them crashing up too close consistently, especially when they had their issues in, hitting the right hole or guessing incorrectly at which hole they're hitting, because then you just open up another lane for them to hit through. The biggest way that you're going to help prevent this and help keep those guys, those 2 linebackers, Josh Jewell and Alex Singleton, help keep them clean a little bit is going bigger up front. And honestly, that's probably the answer for the Broncos for the rest of the season. Go bigger up front. Mike Purcell, DJ Jones, and using Draymond Jones as a stand-up edge. You don't want Deshaun Williams out there consistently because while he had some nice flashes against the Carolina Panthers against the run, he had some against San Francisco, and that was the last time he was good against the run with San Francisco before the Panthers game. Yeah. Like, he's just been consistently struggling against the run, so you can't trust him out there on the field against it. Uwazurike, he had some nice splash plays, but it is very obvious that he's a rookie that still has a lot to go on. Matt Henningsen, again, still a rookie, plenty of effort, but there's times where he's just out of position because he's just still growing as a player, into an NFL player. So you got to go bigger. You got to trust your veteran big guys to help open up the room, open up the lanes for your linebackers to go make plays. And then you have to trust your safeties who are doing a terrible job crashing down to be that last line of defense. I mean, a lot of the issues with this run defense has been Justin Simmons, Caden Stearns, and Kareem Jackson. They're late on the rotation down. They're late with the reads. They're hitting the wrong holes. They're over pursuing. Whatever it is, it's just hurting everybody. And while it's a really trying to be a team defense, one or 2 positions, if they don't do their job, it's not gonna be successful.
Yeah. Phil McLaughlin jumping in here. Good evening, Lance, Eric, and Deacon Scott. Lost for words. So Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to Mile High Huddle and Broncos country. # Go Broncos. # MHH for life. Thank you, Phil, man. We got to have something at least positive to talk about. It is Christmas season right around the corner. My birthday actually is in 10 days as well. So that's coming up here soon. Excited for that. My wife's birthday is on the 23rd as well. So got at least some kind of positivity coming around here, at least in the Sanderson household. It may not be Broncos football. Maybe we can steal a win from the Cardinals or the Rams down the stretch and make it feel a little bit better for this team with the expectations that we had of this season. But as of right now, looking pretty dark and dreary like it is here in Wyoming right now. To kind of continue to piggyback off this conversation, the Broncos are projected to get K'Wan Williams back. They're very solid slot cornerback, a very physical player, a guy that does a really good job fitting himself in there in the running game. Is that maybe another answer there for the Broncos here, is having a guy like a K'Wan Williams who does bring that physical presence at the point of attack?
I mean, it obviously helps. Anytime you get an improvement over a Song Bossy, it's a help to the defense, especially against the run. I know I've lit Bossy up time and time again for his work on crossers, which he struggled with this season when out there on the field. He's a terrible run defender as well. And Quan Williams, he's scrappy enough. He's physical enough. I mean, he's not afraid to mix it up. Getting him back at the nickel corner spot is obviously a boost to your run defense. But again, it's just that whole thing of it's got to be on everyone. Mm-hmm. I mean, I talked about the corners. I talked about I talked about the safeties, the linebackers, the defensive line, like the corners. I mean, Damari Mathis, he's been hit or miss against the run, and Patrick Surtain has been far more miss than hit against the run. I mean, that first one big play he made against Carolina was so great to see. He was physical coming downhill, and then you see him get toasted by DJ Moore. You see him just get completely stiff-armed to the ground. On a run play, like I've hit on Patrick Surtain for this often. It's like he's plenty physical in coverage, and he's without a doubt one of the best coverage corners, if not the best coverage corner in the NFL at the moment. But you got to bring that same kind of scrappiness. You bring in coverage against the run. You're hyped up as being a physical guy. Be a physical guy. I know this is one reason why Darrelle Revis is considered a lot of people's GOAT as the GOAT because of how physical he was or how good he was in coverage. No, I mean, you take away, if you just want to talk about coverage corners, yeah, he's probably the greatest of all time in coverage. I mean, sustained success, he has that over Champ Bailey, but to me, it is still Champ Bailey, at least in greatest of my time, I should say. It is Champ Bailey because Champ Bailey did it all. I mean, he was not afraid to stick it in the run. I want that from Patrick Surtain because that is how you take your play to the next level.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct on that one. And Surtain has all the physical talent and the size, the physical stature. We're talking 6'2", 205 with 34-inch arms, and he's built thick. He's built to play against the run, and he just doesn't do it the right way. Got an interesting question from Scott here in the chat, and we'll get back to the main focus here in the chat as well. But in our private chat, Scott Kennedy coming in says, how much money has Draymond Jones cost himself the last half of this season? Is graded out as the 87th of 125 is graded by Pro Football Focus. I want to take a stab at this one first a little bit, just because I had a hot take about Draymond Jones right after the Bradley Chubb trade. And I said that Draymond Jones, now that you're losing Bradley Chubb, now that you don't have Randy Gregory because he's injured, you don't have Baron Browning because he's injured, you're working with Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito as your potential other edge rushers. Draymond Jones has a golden opportunity to prove himself to be a top three, I would say, ish area interior defensive lineman, like 3 to 5 tech interior defensive lineman. If he can continue at the rate that he was at, he was number 1 in total pressures, number 2 in sacks or something like that across all interior defensive linemen at that particular point in the NFL. He was playing an incredibly high level of football. He's still playing very high level of football right now, but you're not seeing as much of the flashy stuff. And the reason why is because what help does he have? There ain't no one out there to help him. He's got DJ Jones, who's playing great football. Don't get me wrong. But the inconsistency of Nick Bonito has been drastically understated. Like, he has the big flash plays, but he is also so terrible against the run. Baron Browning's still coming back from that injury, and he's been inconsistent as well. Like, what other player out on the defensive line does Draymond Jones have to take any of the attention away from him? And he's still producing at a fairly decent level, from what I understand. I mean, I have to go look at the statistics and everything like that. But in terms of pass rushing win rate, he's top 6, I believe, in the NFL right now. It's crazy. He's still doing an amazing job getting after the quarterback, even though the sack numbers, the pressure numbers aren't exactly there.
So I'm trying to blow it up big enough for everybody to see. This is pass rushing rates at defensive tackle, double team rate, and pass rush win rate. There are 4 interior defensive linemen that have a higher pass rush win rate than he does in the NFL currently, according to ESPN's analytics. And then, but he's just the second fewest at double team. So the issue with him isn't that there's nobody else to take the attention off of him, because he's never been a guy who's getting double teamed, and he still isn't. But his play is still taking a hit. He needs that other guy to help him out, not by taking attention away, by helping get pressure on the quarterback, which helps open him up a little bit. And for all this, Draymond Jones, he's still top 10 in pass rush productivity, still top 10 in pass rush win rate according to Pro Football Focus. He's still top 10 in total pressures. Like, he's still having a great year. I don't think he's hurt himself all that much financially, because the bigger issues have come against the run, where he has consistently been inconsistent. And what is the NFL? It's a passing league. You got to be able to get after the quarterback. You got to be able to get after the quarterback on the inside. Draymond Jones has proven he can do that. And I know that Denver, they're trying to get a deal done. From what I understand, there was belief that a deal was getting close, if not almost completed. But the money, the total guarantees, the length of it, how the money was spread out, wasn't enough for Draymond Jones. He's probably looking at close to $20 million on an average per year basis. And I don't think that where he's at because of his run defense is going to bring about much of a change. Because when you look at the other interior defensive linemen that are paid in that same area, a lot of them have issues against the run. Aaron Donald's considered one of the best interior defensive linemen against the run, or in the NFL, but he has some issues against the run. And he has a lot of inconsistency against the run, but he just gets after the quarterback so damn much that you just look the other way. You don't care as much about it because of how good he can get after the quarterback, because that's what teams want more than anything at this moment from those type of interior defensive linemen.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not necessarily that his play has taken a huge drop off. He's still producing at a relatively high level. And not to say that he's getting double teamed or anything like that. I do want to kind of clarify that one comment. I agree with everything you just said there, Eric. I don't think that he's going to like PFF grade is one thing, and we all know how PFF grades can be kind of wonky at times. I guess I'll put it nicely that way. The way that I want to put it is not family friendly. So we'll just kind of leave that conversation there. And Scott, that's a great question though. I do think that what you bring out is a fairly decent point. It's a good conversation anyways. Peter Middleton, really fast. I want to grab this comment. And then I got another question I want to get to regarding the Ravens offense before we switch over to the other side of the ball for the Broncos. Going offensive. But Peter jumps in here and says, is the defense just losing discipline due to poor performance of the offense? Or they get found? Must be hard to play 100% when teams keep putting on the points. I think this is an interesting conversation, and I don't necessarily know that it's losing discipline, but it's just going out there to make a play. And I want to go back a couple of weeks ago to the Raiders game in overtime. The Pat Surtain wide open touchdown allowed to Devontae Adams on it was a crossing route that it turned into a corner route, and Surtain just got turned around. Just a bad play by Surtain just all the way around. I don't want to necessarily make an excuse for Surtain, because he's got to understand that his cover 3 responsibility is to maintain outside leverage so that he doesn't let anybody get outside of his outside shoulder. It's plain and simple. That's what he was supposed to do. He didn't do that. He's just trying to make a play. That's the thing. I think they're losing discipline trying to go out and make a play because they know that this offense is not good enough to go out there and potentially go and have a game-winning drive. Like they just don't trust this offense. So they're thinking, we got to do everything that we can to get the football away, stop this offense no matter what. And they're taking some chances that they don't necessarily need to be taking. I don't want to excuse the entire defensive struggles over these last couple of weeks with the big plays, specifically the one on DJ Moore, the big 52-yard shot on Surtain. That one, Surtain just got beat, just straight up. The DJ Moore just ran by him. It was wide open. There was nothing you could do about that. The touchdown pass to DJ Moore on the crossing route. That's, I think, a coaching point there, because we've seen the Broncos get torched on crossing routes, not only this year, but for several years in a row. They cannot find somebody that knows how to play proper trail technique on a crossing route. It just hasn't happened. Even Surtain in his rookie season against Sterling Shepard again in the New York Giants week 1 got torched on a like 78-yard touchdown pass to Sterling Shepard on a crossing route because he has no idea what the hell he's doing out there. I guess not. That's probably the wrong way to say that. But
he got beat against Sterling Shepard, and because he didn't press. He was told to press, and he didn't. He played off. He gave too much space, and just Sterling Shepard was able to take advantage of that. That's been reported. I mean, he's talked about it. Fangio's talked about it. Everyone's talked about it.
I just remember the play. I just remember that play where it's on a crossing route, and Surtain's so far behind the guy on a crossing route. It's wide open. There's nothing you can do there. So I think that there's something to be said about that, about guys that are just going out there and trying to make plays and taking unnecessary chances. And it's costing this Broncos defense. It really is.
So when talking about this defense and if they're losing discipline, they've never been disciplined. You can't lose what you don't have. I mean, their tackling technique is consistently poor, leading to multiple broken tackles. They're not playing consistently disciplined against the run. They're not playing consistently disciplined in coverage. Like, they never have all season long. Evero deserves a lot of credit. I mean, his defense has been playing great, but there's those plays that they could be so much better if they were just playing a little bit more disciplined. And I mean, that's just the honest truth about it. I don't think it's fair to sit there and say the defensive struggles are because the offense isn't doing anything, because all but like 2 games this season, on the final drive in the first half, the defense is allowing a score. Like, it's when they're breaking is a concern and is an issue for this team. And it's not a sign of it's not because they're getting tired. It's just issues on their end. It's not the best, most talented defense like a lot of people think. I mean, there's a lot of holes in it, especially with the depth, which is being attacked because of, the constant injury concerns. The issues with the defense are more the fact that they have these issues. Teams have shown it, and teams are figuring out a way to consistently attack it. Against the run, we've seen it all season long. When Deshaun Williams is out there, they are running it straight at Deshaun Williams. When Nick Benito is out there, they are running it straight at Nick Benito. And we are seeing these defensive linemen getting pushed 5 yards downfield. We're seeing Nick Benito fall on the ground trying to make a play because he can't get off the block. We're seeing the edge defender getting driven 10 yards downfield, like the Blind Side movie where Michael Orr just goes and pushes the guy through the end zone and over the fence. That's what we're seeing with this defense. It's not an issue of they're losing discipline. It's not an issue of the offense. They're just getting beat. And it's just something that you got to work on. You got to get more talented. You got to improve in your technique. You got to get better, and you got to do more.
Well, the bad part is they're getting beat in the running game, and they're going up against a team that wants to smash it down your throat and just run the football all the time. Like, don't get me wrong. Eric and I were kind of talking about this earlier before we went live with Lamar Jackson. Make him win from the pocket. And like, don't let him scramble around. Don't let him get his legs going. Those big explosive plays where he escapes the pocket, escapes contain, and he's just athletic enough that he can just run all over you. Those are the plays you can't allow to happen. Lamar can still beat you throwing the football. Don't get me wrong. He showed us that last year in Denver. He beat the Broncos throwing the football. He had Marquise Hollywood Brown on a 55-yard touchdown pass where Kareem Jackson just got completely torched on that play. I think Lamar threw for like 300 yards in that game and 3 touchdowns. Like, it was a great game from Lamar Jackson. He has the ability to beat you with his arm. That's just not the way that they want to win football games right now. They want to wear you down up front. They want to be physical in the running game, and they want to slow the game down, grind the clock out, and just like impose their will on you. And that's what this Broncos team has been struggling to do over the last couple of games. I mean, the Raiders rushed for over 150 yards. The Panthers had over 200 yards on the ground. Like, it's bad right now up front for this Broncos team. And the edge concerns are definitely there, but just all around the miscues, just getting beat one-on-ones, not taking advantage of opportune situations where you can go out and make a play is definitely a sincere problem for this Broncos defense. Last thing here before we switch over to the offensive side of the football for the Broncos here, I want to talk about this receiving depth for the or not really depth, but the core of this Baltimore Ravens passing attack. When I watched this team earlier today, you notice that the guys that they have, there's not like a true X receiver, big body possession type of guy. They've got a lot of speedy, shifty guys like James Prochet III. They've got Devin Duvernay, a guy that I really like coming out of Texas a couple of years ago. Demarcus Robinson.
Real quick, with Devin Duvernay, we don't have to worry about him because Nathaniel Hackett has been replicating him in practice this week.
Oh, wow.
That's just a perfect idea right there.
Mm-hmm. That's great coaching, if you ask me. But that's the thing, though. This team doesn't have a great X possession type receiver. Everybody has these specific mismatches, the in and out ability, their breaks, they're shifty, they're fast, they can take the top off. They've also got Deshaun Jackson, who we all know, 35-year-old receiver that can still stretch the field vertically and take the top off of the defense. Like that's what they are. And then they also have a freak of an athlete in Mark Andrews at the tight end position. And I think Isaiah Likely is going to be back for this game as well. So they've got athletes all over this offensive formation in terms of the passing game. This is a problem to me, especially with Surtain and the issues that he's having right now and the issues that he's had with his change of direction ability, that we could see some explosive plays in this passing game against this Broncos defense. I'm really kind of scared about that. And with Damari Mathis, yeah, he's shown flashes and he's improved. I have that film breakdown of him on Mile High Huddle from last week. But quick twitch, double move, stuff like that, which is what the Ravens like to do, pushing the ball down the field. That's not something Damari Mathis wants to go against on a down-to-down basis. And this could be a big ticket for disaster for the Broncos defense.
Yeah, I think that they'll kind of do what they've been doing and limit the passing game a little bit. I mean, they have talent, but I mean, Deshaun Jackson, I think you overrate what he has left. I mean, unless he's putting wheels on his walker, I mean, he's not going to really stretch the field that much.
Well,
he started to show a decline in that ability over the last couple seasons. I mean, he's still a talented receiver. It's just he's not that same type of receiver anymore. James Prochet and Devin Duvernay, I think those are the more guys to worry about. I think that you're going to have an issue with who do you put on them, because I don't think Patrick Surtain is the best guy to cover either of them, and I don't think that Damari Mathis is either. And, Quan Williams is going to be handling one of them most of the time. And then you have to figure out Mark Andrews. And as you said, they have athletes on here, and yeah, they can attack the Broncos defense in the exact way that you need to. And if Denver doesn't get pressure on Lamar Jackson, and not only get pressure, but if they don't get home and just allow him to run over, coverage is going to break. I mean, I'm not trusting these safeties to hold deep against this passing offense, because they've broken time and time again about it. So it's just, I mean, it's issues, and it's issues that the Baltimore Ravens can easily exploit. I've seen a couple things in here, and I'm going to say this real quick in regards to Nathaniel Hackett potentially getting fired. There has been a shift since the Raiders game. Beforehand, there was talk that maybe he gets fired after the Raiders game if they lose. Now it's gone back to he's getting the rest of the season. That seems to be the conversation that is going on. I've maintained all along that I think he'll get the whole season. And if you didn't fire him after the Carolina Panthers game, I get why you don't against the Ravens or against the Raiders after the Raiders game. It was a short week because of the holiday. So I get it then. You don't have an excuse now. You had an early game on Sunday, a full week. You had your chance to fire him after just the worst performance from the Broncos offense, or the passing offense this season. It was the best running game performance on the season. You had your chance to fire him. That was it. You're 3-8. You're not completely eliminated from the playoffs, but you practically are. 90% certain Nathaniel Hackett is here to stay for the rest of the season. Going on real quick and carrying this over, is this whole talk this week has been about some people are blaming Hackett, some people are blaming Wilson. Jordan Schultz came out, and I mean, Jordan Schultz very close to people on Russell Wilson's side. He's been leaking information from that camp for a few years now, and he's flat out saying that it's Hackett, and it's not a matter of if he'll get fired, it's a matter of when. We've known that. Hackett's not going to make it to 2023, and he's not going to make it past January 9th. There's nothing that the Broncos can do for the rest of the season to get there. On that note, you also don't get any benefit from firing him now. None. It's not college football. You don't get a heads up on recruiting. You don't get a heads up on hiring a new coaching staff. You don't get a heads up on free agency. You don't get a heads up on anything. The reports about the locker room not quitting on him, those are accurate. They're not quitting on him. The reports about who they're actually quitting on and who they actually have issues with is a lot more accurate. And it's just there's no point. I mean, you're going to fire him and you're going to get a look at Capers as the interim head coach. Woohoo! What does that do for you? Nothing, because he's not going to be on the coaching staff next year. He's gone too. You're not going to give it to Evero because guess what? You're essentially stuck up. You have to make him the long-term coach. And from every conversation I've had with people close to the Broncos inside the organization is they want a veteran coach. They want somebody who has experience under their belt. So Frank Reich, Dan Quinn, names like that. Those seem to be higher up on the list of priorities this year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you're not going to give it to Evero. And then if you make him interim, guess what? You're just giving every other NFL team a free look at him as a head coach in a year that he's already getting quite the consideration for a head coaching spot. There's no point in it. There's plenty of issues to fire Hackett. He's most likely going to get the rest of the season. As for the Broncos offense, this is where they have more matchups they can exploit because the Ravens defense has a lot of holes, but it's on Russell Wilson and the Broncos offensive line and the receivers to go out there and execute, which they have not shown they can at all this season.
The one point that you put out there on Evero is probably the most astute one that I think that you made. And don't get me wrong, you made a lot of astute points there, but the one about firing Hackett and bringing Evero in as the interim head coach. I'm not saying that I want to word this the right way so you don't come at me because I know that you and I had this conversation before. But if you put Evero out there, you almost have to make him one of your front runners to be the head coach for this next cycle, because if you don't, the odds of him sticking around are slim to none anyways. Like if you keep him as defensive coordinator, you still have him under contract as defensive coordinator. You don't have to offer him any kind of job title or boost or anything like that. So to me, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you put Evero and risk him first off as a head coach that other teams are already looking at him? But if you put him as a head coach, teams are going to be even more interested in him, especially if he has success. Leave him in the title that he does have. Promote Dom Capers as the guy because he at least has head coaching experience, and just let it kind of work itself out from there. To me, I think the more interesting conversation is, given as bad as it has been right now, and given the lack of capital that the Broncos have to improve anything for next season, I'm going to get flamed for this, but and Eric, you and I had this conversation as well. Is there a possibility that they just say, you know what? Let's just strip everything down on the offensive side. We're going to keep Hackett in place as the head coach. He's going to be the CEO. We're going to come in with a new offensive staff, something that is unfamiliar with Russ. We're going to just break down all the walls that we have with Russ right now, the setup that we have, keep Hackett in place, run it back in 2023. And if they improve, and there you go. You've got your head coach quarterback for the next 5 years. And if they fail, then you tank everything away and you go draft Caleb Williams because you're going to be in the top 5 anyways. That is probably a more interesting conversation to me right now than who's going to be the interim head coach for the rest of the season, because I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. This is going to, get everybody all up in arms about it. The best option for the Broncos, short-term and long-term, is to run it back in 2023. Doesn't mean you don't make any changes. Change out an offensive coordinator. Give the job fully to Clint Kubiak. Let him install his offense. And you just let Nathaniel Hackett be a CEO type. Change out some position coaches. You do that. You run it back. Either you make it work or you don't. And if you don't make it work, guess what? You start fresh. Because what's going to happen if you fired Nathaniel Hackett and George Payton gets a second shot at head coach and he fails? Guess what? Another year, another head coach, one and done, because the head coach isn't going to stick around for the next general manager. They're going to go bring in their own guy. Guess what? Russell Wilson's probably done too. I know a lot of people are focused on 2025. There's a lot of talk going around that 2024 post-June 1st cut is when it'll happen. If he has another year like this, that's when it'll happen. They will not keep him beyond that. So, look, guess what? I mean, another year, new head coach, new general manager, new quarterback. May as well run it back. I mean, aim for that bottom 5 pick, aim for starting fresh, aim for starting over, especially with new owners. Like, it's the best option short term and long term. But it's not going to be what's going to happen. They're going to fire Nathaniel Hackett. They're going to go bring in a veteran head coach. They're going to change out the coaching staff. They're going to try to do what they can to, recoup some of that sunk cost into Russell Wilson, which I don't think that is doable. I watching Russell Wilson, watching the issues. I've talked multiple times at length about simpler reads, making a read off one safety based off the thing, cutting the field in half with rollouts. You can't do rollouts with him unless you're in shotgun doing a rollout. You can't do it from under center because he's not fast enough. You don't have any respect on his legs because the edge defenders, guess what? As soon as he starts that rollout, they're just closing in on him. They don't respect his legs for them to outrun him enough because he doesn't have enough gas in the tank left in his legs to outrun them. So that's one of the big things. Under center play actions, you got to be able to freeze that edge defender. Russell Wilson can't. On top of that, you have to be able to flip your head around to get it out there, to be looking at your receiver to get the ball out quicker. Russell Wilson's not doing that. It takes him about a half second to 3/4 of a second to get his head turned around when it should be less than 1/4 of a second. He just can't flip his head that fast. No idea why. Like, it's just a simple thing of going like that. Just that simple. But he can't. So the conversation has turned to making the quarterback a game managing quarterback. Nothing wrong with the game manager quarterback. You can win a lot of games with the game manager quarterback. You don't pay a game manager quarterback $250 million. And that's where the issue is with Denver. I mean, if you're paying a quarterback $250 million, they better be going out there and making plays to help cover up the issues, which Wilson isn't, and winning games, which Wilson isn't. There's no one saying that the coaching staff isn't an issue. There's no one saying that the offensive line is an issue. There's no one saying the receivers aren't an issue or that the lack of a running game is not an issue. Those are all issues. They're all heightened because your quarterback, who's paid $250 million, is playing like a quarterback who shouldn't even be playing high school football.
Good rant. I love it. You're absolutely 100% correct. Chris Chance is jumping in here, $2 super chat. New name. What's up, Chris? Thanks for joining us, man. Erick and Lance are still the best in the business. Thank you. We appreciate that. We really do. We've kind of, ground our axe a little bit dry every now and again and rub some people the wrong way. But Chris, thank you for joining us and thank you for that. We really appreciate your support, dude. All right, quickly, offensive
real
side.
Quick, I got to try this because this was William. This absolutely great comment. Really appreciate it. Good for a good laugh.
Yes.
Saying, can we get Moses at center to part the D-line so Russ can see clearly? Yeah, we got to do something. Get his eyes checked. Hey, it supposedly helped Jameis Winston. Maybe he needs LASIK.
We should probably get Jimmy Cliff, because I can see clearly now and the rating is gone. Anybody catch that reference?
I thought about making that joke, but I decided against it.
I had to look up the name. I didn't actually know it off the top of my head, so I apologize for that, for the little pause there. But I'm trying to get better with pop reference cultures and stuff like that. I don't understand all of that stuff. Anyways, quickly, we've already really discussed a lot of the issues with this Broncos offensive line, but they
have no offense. That's the easiest. That's the easiest way to describe it. They have no offense.
But there's still some things that they can do. I think that attacking the edge in the running game for this Broncos team this week against this Baltimore Ravens defense is a way that they could potentially gain some traction in the running game. We talked about it last week against the Carolina Panthers, and it didn't really come to fruition because Brian Burns just decided to do Brian Burns things and blew the game up from everywhere. It was amazing to watch him play. But not to say that they have bad players at the edge position in Baltimore, but their players are older, slower. They're getting on towards the tail end of their careers. But what they do very well is still continue to have success in the running game. Jason Pierre-Paul, Justin Houston, Tyus Bowser is a guy. They do have Odafe Owe. I gotta give some credit to my dude.
Are you talking about the Baltimore edges being old? Is that what you said? Justin Madubuike, Odafe Owe, David Ojabo.
Ojabo's barely even played. I just said Odafe Owe. I got to give my shout to Odafe Owe. The guys that I was watching out there play the majority of the snaps against the Jaguars and against the Panthers, literally an hour and a half before we started this show. were Justin Houston and Jason Pierre-Paul. Like, those guys are not getting after the quarterback. You're going to have to, like, the way that they have success right now is in the running game. And it's not necessarily very great when those two are out on the field. Madubuike, dude, the interior, like, from 5 technique inside, don't run at those guys because they have Calais Campbell. They've got Justin Madubuike. They've got Broderick Washington. They've got another dude, number 97. I can't remember his name right now. Those guys clog up the lanes on the interior of the offensive line so well. Like, running against this interior defensive line, and with Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith filling the gaps and scraping downhill, running inside is not an option. The only way that you're able to run against this Baltimore Ravens team right now is on the edges, and that's only if you have Justin Houston and Jason Pierre-Paul on the field. Like, that's it. Because with Carolina ran all over this Broncos defense, and we tout this Broncos defense for what they are. Baltimore's front 7 is wild up front. It's crazy the effectiveness they have in the running game. Like, tell me I'm wrong.
No, they're great against the run. You're just wrong about their edges.
I don't know, man. I saw that was the one thing that you could do was if you attack the edge specifically, outside zone stuff. If you could actually get to the edge, you were actually there was openings for you to actually get to the outside.
That is where they're weak. You're not wrong on that. And the issue with that is that Denver can't run outside zone because they don't have the personnel to run outside zone.
Yep.
Hey, guess what? What I said at the top of the hour when we first went live about George Payton not doing enough to build this team up, you had a head coach who came in and said, yeah, we're going to be an outside zone West Coast style offense, and you don't go get offensive linemen that can do it. You get inside zone offensive linemen. The only offensive lineman they brought in, we still haven't seen on the field that can fit an outside zone, to be clear, is Tom Compton. Billy Turner's not an outside zone scheme runner. Everybody talked, just because he was in Green Bay doesn't mean he is one. And Green Bay ran outside zone, was their 3rd most used run concept. Outside zone, inside zone, and power gaps and full lead stuff. Denver's top 2 run concepts that they've used this season. The outside zone stuff was just overplayed, and Denver used it earlier on, and they went away from it because they realized that they can't run it. Which, hey, credit to Nathaniel Hackett for realizing that and adapting his offense to what his team can do a little bit. But no, you do want to get outside a little bit because Odafe Owe, as good as he is, he still has issues against the run. Justin Houston being a little bit older, I mean, he is on them. He is one of the older guys that they have at the edge position. He's always been a solid run defender. I don't think he's ever been like truly outstanding or great. He's been solid, good, and he's definitely taken a little bit of a step back. Jason Pierre-Paul, he's still a pretty solid run defender. So yeah, you do want to attack the outside a little bit, but it's just not something we can do, and we don't have the running backs to really do it. If Mike Boone is coming back, I hadn't seen if he's being activated off injured reserve. I know that he was, he started his window to practice, but Mike Boone is the best running back that we have to run the outside zones. But again, don't know what's going on with him. Latavius Murray, I mean, he's not a guy that you want running outside whatsoever because it takes him 60 years to get outside the tackle box. Again, George Payton did a wonderful job at, adding to this running back room that needed it when you thought that Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, and Mike Boone were going to be fine, despite obvious signs of Melvin Gordon taking a step back. So it's just it's just an issue with it, the running game. You need to have success. You need to, expand your, and I hate using this. I hate talking about it. You need to go to the other concepts that build upon your run game, the quicker passing game, getting the ball out in the flat, getting out on the swings. That's what you kind of got to do to mimic a run game against this defense, because you can't flat out run it.
Yeah. This defense, while it may not be as opportunistic as what you're usually used to seeing from a Baltimore Ravens team, they're still very good. I think they're middle of the pack against the run, but they still do a very good job of limiting you into, like, when you do run the football, they don't let like a lot of yards per carry. So people are just essentially, teams are just running at each other. The Ravens run at you, you run at them. It slows the game down. So they are
9th in rush DVOA, 9th.
Man, that's crazy. So what are they in yards per game? I thought it was closer to the middle of the pack, because I know I was looking at the
I don't care. Yards per game is a terrible stat to use.
How about yards per carry?
Yards per carry is a terrible stat to use.
Well, fine then.
DVOA is the best one to do that because it weights the schedule and who they're playing against.
Because
so that's why I like DVOA so much. But I can pull up that stuff real quick.
Well, because I was looking at the ESPN run stop win rate, and they were like 16th or something like that.
That ESPN win rate is a little wonky.
It is a little bit wonky. Regardless, I know that they're very good against the run, and they're not.
They are second in fewest rush yards allowed per game.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, tough sledding for the Broncos this week.
William,
hey. No,
this is the wrong night to say this because Lance here thinks Boone is a Hall of Famer.
Hey, whoa. No. Don't you dare put that on me, sir. I never said that. All I've ever said about Mike Boone is anytime that he is out there, he seemingly makes plays. The most literally the longest run that the Broncos had this season before Latavius Murray went for 54 yards against the Panthers last week was a Mike Boone 17-yard run, okay? Give me my flowers. Damn it. I'm playing, but for real though, Mike Boone he's not anything amazing. He's just, whenever he does get the opportunities, he seems to make the most out of them. I go back to that game where he was in Minnesota a few years ago, had to start because Alexander Madison was out. Dalvin Cook, I believe they were holding out for the playoffs and whatnot. And Mike Boone ran for like 156 yards and 2 touchdowns on like 15 carries. He had an absolutely amazing game. Every time he's out there, he seemingly just makes plays, and I'm about that life. I like guys that just go and do that. Yeah, Scott, 19 carries in Denver. Mike Boone is a legend. He absolutely is a legend. Leave me alone. Why do you guys insist on attacking me? I know I'm right on this one. Okay, damn it, leave me alone. In terms of passing the ball, Russell Wilson can't throw it, so it doesn't really matter. The receivers can't catch it, so it doesn't really matter.
He can't see the field because he's too short. He can't see his pass off his offensive line. Receivers get open. He doesn't hit that. He makes the wrong read pre-snap. Hey, obvious man coverage. I'm going to look at the zone beating concept here instead of the pick play to get a guy open against the pass. Happened against the Carolina Panthers multiple times. But the big one is, the game-losing pass against the Indianapolis Colts.
Yep.
Anyways, go ahead.
I don't really have anything to say anymore. I'm out of trying to make excuses or find something to like at this particular point. Guys, we are literally talking about right now the Denver Broncos are averaging like 14.7 points per game through 11 games. They are on track to be the worst offense since 2000. Literally the worst offense in the NFL since 2000. You know who that team was? The Cleveland Browns, the expansion Cleveland Browns, where they scored 10 points a game. This is we're on terms of history here. We talked about this last week. This team is historically bad on offense. And you want me to try to find a way for them to go out against a Baltimore Ravens defense who, they haven't necessarily lived up to the hype. They're a great running team. Like the secondary with all the players they have, Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, who's a tremendous blitzer off the edge. Good luck, Cam Fleming, by the way. Good luck to Calvin Anderson, by the way.
Good luck to Russell Wilson, who can't see the obvious what's coming.
Yeah. I'm telling you right now, I watched this like 5 different times today. Marlon Humphrey, when he lines up 3 yards off of the edge defender on the line of scrimmage in the slot, for a fact he's coming. And he's going to make a sack. He's going to at least get a hit or make a pressure because he is quick enough off of the snap right there. He's going to get into the backfield and he's going to disrupt the passing attack. When Marlon Humphrey lines up 3 yards off of the edge on the line of scrimmage in the slot, he is going to come on a blitz. I guarantee it. There's no question about it. And go ahead.
I just got to shout out Malcolm Brown from Homer, Alaska, fellow Alaskan. I hope it's a lot warmer a little bit south to where you're at compared to me, where it's a lovely 11 degrees and negative 80 in my office.
It's actually not very much warmer here right now. I will say that. Cristiano coming in here saying, Lance, the 2000 Browns scored more than 20 points in 4 games. The Broncos have 1. 2 actually.
Did the Browns win any of those games? Because the Broncos didn't win theirs.
They won 1. because the Broncos have 2 games. They lost the game against the Raiders in Vegas, and then in London they scored 21 against the Jets.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot they scored 21 in London. That's right.
Yep. So they've got 2 games over 21, but
so they're
it's 1-1, and it really doesn't matter. So
it's such a wonderful, great time when our offense was more efficient with Pat Shurmur leading the offense on the sideline and Teddy Bridgewater starting at quarterback. And, I made that point about $250 million for a game manager quarterback. You remember last year, somebody brought up the idea about paying Teddy Bridgewater $15 million on an average per year basis, and everybody balked at that because that's not what you pay a game managing quarterback. Congratulations. We're talking about paying a game manager quarterback $250 million if we're lucky to get a game manager type game out of him.
Yeah, whoever said we weren't critical about the Broncos. Okay. With that, guys, we're going to get out of here. Thank you all for joining us here on the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. Follow us on Twitter, guys, by finding me at Sanderson MHH, and for Eric at Erick Trickel. Also for Scott Kennedy at Scout Kennedy. Also, guys, while you're at it, please follow at Mile High Huddle. That's the mother account where you guys find breaking news and analysis regarding your Denver Broncos, film breakdowns, opinion articles, anything Denver Broncos related. You're going to find it there at Mile High Huddle, and also at milehighhuddle.com. Facebook supporters, please go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. It's a great way to just kind of get our community a little bit together. People on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, go over there as well. It's a great way to, meld 2 different communities together. Our Mile High Huddle community is one of the best, man. We always have great conversations with you guys, whether we're on the podcast or just out on social media kind of doing our thing. Folks, if you're financially able to do so, please head over to huddleuppod.com. That's the merch tent where you guys can find hats, t-shirts, coffee cups, face masks, onesies for your babies. We've got teddy bears. There's little dog scarves, like literally a bunch of Mile High Huddle swag. Make sure you guys head over to huddleuppod.com. Get anything to suit your fancy. There's some for the guys, some for the girls. Whatever you like, that's where you're going to be able to find that. And folks, if you're not financially able to do so, whether it's through huddleuppod.com or the super chats and stars donations here on Facebook and on YouTube, please, guys, there's 3 things that everybody needs to be doing. We talk about it every single show. Subscribe, whether you guys are on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Please subscribe to Mile High Huddle. It helps us out so much. You guys really don't understand. Like every video you guys see across all social media platforms as well. And if you love it, this is the best way to support the show, is share it, guys. Get more Broncos fans into our shows, onto our content, onto our articles, into our community. As many of people as you can would be so helpful, because without you guys, we could not do what we do best, which is cover your Denver Broncos. Now, Eric, I've got to go find a throat lozenge or a hot toddy or a something, because my throat's killing me. Any big plans for you this weekend? Any last words, dude?
No, I saw somebody made a comment that I kind of wanted to touch on real quick before we got out of here. It was just a little joking comment. Let me see here. Michael Frady said Russ can't manage a B-Day party. And I was going to make a joke about how, that's right, but because, his wife did it. But typically you don't set up your own birthday party, so it's not a good joke to make. But yeah, Russ can't manage much. Somebody else talked about Jay Keeps, or asked about his personal quarterback coach, Jay Keeps. Like, there's a lot of issues in this team, and it isn't all Russell Wilson, but a large portion of it is. There is a great breakdown out there by JT O'Sullivan, who a lot of people are writing off because he was college teammates with Nathaniel Hackett, but he does a good job of highlighting the issues that are directly on Russell Wilson. It's not an issue with the play call. It is an issue of Wilson. It's worth watching. Talking about his footwork, bad reads, and it's not just that. He talks about the blocking issues, especially from the tight end position. He talks about all sorts of, it's a great breakdown. It's on my Twitter, guys. Make sure you go check it out. It's about 32 and a half minutes long or so. It's a great breakdown, and the things that he highlights are things that I have been talking about all season long. The same kinds of issues, and it's the reasons why that I think that we're basically at a point where trying to, hope that we can turn Russell Wilson and fix Russell Wilson is becoming, more of a coping mechanism. I don't think that there is fixing Russell Wilson at this point. And as somebody else said in the chat, is that nobody, not even his biggest haters, thought he would be this bad. I wanted Russell Wilson. I won't hide that. And I kind of figured that that he wouldn't be as good as he had been. The signs of decline have been obvious and continuing since 2019. I didn't expect him to fall off a cliff like this. And that is part of what's so so problematic with this team. They gave him a bunch of money, which I will still say, outside of hindsight, paying him before the season was still the right move because of the fact that if he waited and he played well, his cost was just going to go up.
Yeah.
But with hindsight, he's playing terribly, and now you're stuck with the $250 million quarterback that can't do anything to carry your team as he should be. That is what you pay that much money for a quarterback to do, is carry your team with the pieces around him. Yeah, and the pieces around him still can get better, but a lot of the issues circle back to Russell Wilson.
Sorry, I'm dying over here. No, I don't disagree with you, and I think a big part of it, and maybe we'll hear some more stories coming about this. Kind of speculating here, informed speculation, if you will. The amount of control that Russell Wilson has with this team right now is just a little bit too much. I think that what the office that they gave him, allowing his team to be in the building, allowing his quarterback coach to be in the offensive meeting rooms and stuff like that. That's all fine and groovy when you have that in the summertime, but to allow that to bleed through into professional time where you're, like you've got 53 other individuals, 60 other individuals on this team right now, and an entire coaching staff that doesn't get that. Like nobody else has their own personal trainers, their own personal offensive line coach or anything like that. That's actively working within the offense, working within the team. And Russell Wilson having that, I think, gives him a little bit less accountability for things. And I think that that's a problem. The faster that they can clean that up, the better. I think that getting Jake Heaps out of the room, I think the faster they can get his acupuncture therapist, his massage therapist, his 2 personal chefs that he mentions all the time. Like there are positives to having those things. And he has the money. I can't blame the guy for doing that. But for the team and Nathaniel Hackett specifically to allow those guys to be as big of a voice and allow Russell Wilson to have as much control as he has in the offense right now is a big mistake. And I'll just leave it at that. And I think that the faster that you can clean that up, the better.
Yeah, I have a whole article up talking about that as Jay Kozak came in there and said is that Russell Wilson has surrounded himself with yes men, and that is perfectly accurate. But Mr. Noble here is coming that he means saying, I mean, Mahomes' footwork isn't great either, but it works. It works because of how freakishly talented he is as a player. The arm talent can make up for it. That's not the case with Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson is, you got to have that clean footwork. You can't drift in the pocket. You can't stay at the high point of the arch to where you get strip sacked because your 5th string offensive tackle that you signed in preseason is getting beat by Brian Burns, who's one of the quickest pass rushers in the NFL at the moment. Like that strip sack's on Russell Wilson, guys. Like he needed to step up. There was a wide open lane for him, but no, he drifts in the pocket, staying at the top of the arch. You don't see that with Patrick Mahomes. So you're right. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have great footwork, but it works because he has all this other ability and just talent in him to make up for it. And we don't have that with Russell Wilson. Yeah. And then Chris Chance with $2 says, I find the lack of Broncos faith disturbing. I get it. But I mean, this team has shown nothing that is deserving of faith at this point for this season anyways.
Yeah. So Chris, and I know you said that we're the best and we appreciate that. And I'm with you. The lack of faith, the people that are saying I'm not watching, I'm not going to support the team, and yada yada yada. I'm with you on that one. One thing that's made Dove Valley Deep Divers probably one of the more controversial podcasts that we have here on Mile High Huddle, if not the most controversial thing.
What not?
If not the most controversial podcast, is the fact that we don't mince words. Like these are our bold opinions. We do deep dive takes. It's what we do. We are very critical in our analysis. It's my pinned tweet. It's been pinned on my Twitter profile for 2 years now. It's okay to be a fan, and it's okay to have some blind homerism in your team and want what's best for them.
Yeah,
but it's also okay to. It is also okay to be extremely critical in your analysis while also wanting to be best for what's best for the team.
I do got to say that I like the little message there, the Star Wars joke about it in there. find your lack of faith disturbing. It's a Star Wars thing.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. Whoa, way over my head. I'm not a Star Wars guy. Not a Star Wars.
I'm not either.
You got a comment. Actually, I want to address it. I can't remember the name on it. Is it someone addressed the fact that you have a badass background, because it's not just like typical bookshelves that all look cliche and whatnot. Like, it's actually cool figurines and it's well organized and it actually looks really nice. I always say this, like, Eric has the best background of anybody here, because
Except for the
it's
boxes.
actually
Just ignore the mess.
It's fine. You'll be all right. All righty, guys. That's going to do it for us tonight on Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. We do appreciate every single one of you guys for joining us tonight, as we do every single week. You all stay safe. Take care. Have a great rest of the weekend. Wash your hands and do not get influenza A, because it sucks. We'll see you guys same time, same place next week. And as always, go Broncos.